Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So I want to bring a brief episode, hopefully brief, about the pattern change and the cool weather that will be going on. Really cool weather is an understatement. Some locations will be just seeing downright cold winter-like temperatures and winter-like weather. I was looking at the weather radar today and I saw Des Moines, Iowa some locations got even 9 inches of snow. There's one snow report of 9 inches in central Iowa, and really it was a bit unexpected to see that much amount of snow. There was a brief mention of it, right? I mentioned it, but again, some things just overproduce and some things underproduce, and now it's moving into western Illinois, the Quad Cities, Dubuque, Iowa, seeing some moderate to heavy snowfall, and really these weird patches of snow kind of may be occurring, especially since we have so much abundant cold air. So anywhere precip does develop with this pattern, snow is possible, and if it does fall heavy enough, it could accumulate. Before we get into this video, if you guys like what you're seeing, or like anytime throughout this video like what you're seeing, consider subscribing, liking the video, especially if you are a returning viewer, and that's a great way to support the channel. Otherwise, let's get into this. So I want to start off by looking at the WGN weather radar. This is just a regular weather radar. It's just Chicago's very own. I live in Chicago, so I often use this. Notice we had a really big band of snow move across Iowa, also South Dakota and into Minnesota, but this one further south was just stronger. And Iowa, I think, got a snow squall warning, portions of central Iowa earlier in the morning. I was asleep, so I can't confirm that. But notice lots of snow moving into western Illinois, eastern Iowa. Chicago, if you live in northeast Illinois, it will be rain most likely. It just will be way too warm. If you look right now, it's 51 in Chicago. But definitely across portions of Iowa, the Midwest, you could see some snow. Rain across the Northeast, you could see a cold front developed. And really, I saw this, right, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But I went to the snowfall reports, and this is what really just shocked me. I mean, some of these amounts were ridiculously high. Look at this. Guthrie Center, Iowa, 7 inches. Right there, Polk City, Iowa, 9 inches. That's the highest amount. You can see that the snowfall amounts were pretty varying based on where you lived. Across the Des Moines downtown area, the international airport, 1.2 inches. Further to the north, 9 cities right by the lake. And then various amounts. Grimes, Iowa, you could see almost half a foot of snow. So that's definitely significant and impressive, to say the least. A bit of snow falling across Minnesota right now. No snowfall reports, but Montana did get quite a bit of snow. You could see just east of Billings, 14 inches of snow. So significant amounts. And let's start talking about what may happen in the future. Notice that the snow is still falling pretty heavily, so if you live across the Quad Cities, please leave a comment below. I'd like to know how much snow you guys received. But again, this video was about the major pattern change, so let's start talking a bit more about that. But I mean, the snow that we're seeing in Iowa is because of the abundance of cold air. Usually they do not see it that early, and almost very rarely they don't see that heavy amounts as their first snowfall. But you could see it was confined to a smaller area. It wasn't really a snowstorm in terms of the large impacts, right? But it definitely was a snowstorm. It felt like one for the folks living in Iowa, central Iowa. But let's take a look at this. So the GEFS, these are ensembles. I think I'll just stick to showing you the ensembles in today's video, because looking at the GFS itself and other various models, there's just too much variance. And let's just see what the ensembles are showing, which is a group of 20 to 30 models from each GFS, European or Canadian kind of model group. Let's see. So right now we see obvious cold air across Iowa. That's what, and the Midwest and across Iowa, that's what allowed for the snow to happen, because of this cold air. Unfortunately, if you don't like the cold, this really weakens and moves out. Tuesday, still chilly. We see that snow burst across Minnesota. If you recall, that's the first of the snowstorms. I'll be making a video about that today in the evening. But notice, we do see some warm air infiltrating because of a storm system developing on Thursday. So the cold air, while it's abundant and very cold, it's fighting with the warm air that is abundant and very warm. So these conflicting sides are going back and forth. And when the storm is in charge, if you will, the warm air will get pushed to the north. Some locations like Illinois will, be fluctuating this next 14 days very, very significantly. We will be going from much above to much below, depending on which day. And towards the end of this week, it looks to get warm across much of the eastern United States, even as far as the UP. But notice the northwestern United States and the northern plains get pretty chilly, and they stay pretty chilly throughout most of this forecasting period. After the storm passes through, you can see the cold air makes its way further to the south, but it doesn't make its way fully into the south. You can see it stops at around the Ohio Valley, kind of Kentucky, Lexington, those areas, into Little Rock, Arkansas, into Nashville, Memphis, kind of those areas right there, depending on which model. This is an average. But where it is cold or below, it will be pretty significantly below, and especially areas like Montana, North Dakota, these areas will be seeing just very, very cold temperatures. Quickly jump over to the shaded. I mean, look at that, 11, 13 during the day. During the night, it gets much worse, into the single digits, if not below zero. So let's go back to the anomalies. This is at this point Sunday, this next weekend. Let me just go through this week again. So this is tomorrow evening into Wednesday morning. You'll just have to check your own forecast, because each model shows how far and how far the warm or the cold air gets. So for the best information, obviously go to the National Weather Service regarding this, and honestly everything with the weather. National Weather Service, they keep on top of things while I'm sleeping. They do it 24/7. So obviously I'm not comparing myself. I'm just here to give you a brief forecast if you would like, which is why I'm on this video. So let's put this into motion. Thursday, notice both sides of the air masses, the warm air and the cold air, intensify pretty significantly, and that's where they peak. I mean, this is the Bear Clinic zone. Oftentimes we see storms riding along here, and in this case it's a little bit to the north. But notice that the cold air does significantly take over the warm air, especially into Sunday, Saturday, Monday. But potentially we see more storm systems on the way, so we'll have to see if this modifies itself. But as of now, I mean, you could see at around a week from today, if you think it's cold in your area, maybe even colder. I mean, you could see this thing's expansive. It spreads over much of the United States. The GEFS at this point kind of take this cold air and override it across much of the eastern United States. Even portions of the west may get in on this. Really just California and Nevada may be a bit warmer, but even at that, it's not, it's not extremely above average. And after this, the models start, the GFS, you can see the cool air is already weaker than it was originally, much darker colors. Into midweek next week, over time it fades, but generally still below average. But then the warm air starts making a comeback. The cold air does seem reluctant on this, but that's because different models show different things, and we'll have to see. But you could see that it definitely weakens, and we see more warm air on the horizon. So November may be a possibly warm month. And to be honest, that's actually a good sign, because oftentimes when you see a warm November, you have a higher chance of seeing a colder December, because as November stays warm, it kind of exponentially gets more and more likely for the next month to be cold. I mean, you could have like 3 or 4 months that are much above average, but by probability, the 5th month or the 4th month has a much higher chance of being below, and it keeps going on and on. You know what I mean? So if November is warm, usually December is chilly, especially with the pattern we've been having. It seems to be the case, and it could only be, a few brief weeks of warmth and followed by cold. So it's kind of not predictable. I do think November will be rather warm, especially the beginning with some of these models are showing, or at least warmer to what we've been seeing. So, a moderation in the pattern. Let's look at the European ensembles, the EPS. This is a completely new model group, but it gives us a better insight on kind of what might happen, because of it's a different model group, so it's a completely different point of view or perspective. I do apologize about the squeakiness of the chair. I think I'll have to make a whole show about this chair, its own little, talk show about its life as a chair. But, all right, so notice we are looking at the European ensembles starting at today. Notice lots of chill across the Midwest, allowing for that early snow. This moves back. You can see very, very similar to what the GFS shows by Tuesday. Wednesday, the warm air is pushing to the north, and with that storm system occurring Thursday into Friday, this warm air peaks at around Wisconsin, Michigan, the Midwest, the heart of the Great Lakes. Really, all of the Great Lakes are going to be under warm conditions, excluding northern Lake Superior, but even the southern parts getting in on some of that heat. And then notice we also see intensifying cold air across Montana, Wyoming, and this then pushes down to the south and kind of shows who's boss, if you will, into this next weekend. Lots of chilly air pushing into the United States. The warm air gets squashed, but the good news is that by the time it reaches the mid-Atlantic, the southeast, it's much more much more moderating this cold air. It's not, it's not going to be 30 to 40 degrees below average, more closer to 10 to 15, and it depends, again, based on the model. Let's just look at the European by itself. You can see that it's a bit more specific. That's why it's just one model, so one storm could really change the outcome of all of this. Again, peaking air masses at around this late week with that storm system pushing to the north. Really, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, the Northwest staying in that cold air the whole time. Anywhere else getting definitely warmer. I mean, you could see Florida, Texas, the Southeast, the Southwest. But again, Washington, Oregon, Idaho really just staying on the chilly side. And as we push this into the future, again, the European does show that cold air kind of winning over. It does show a bit more reluctance, possibly to do with the storm system. This model one is just coming in. It still isn't fully loaded, but notice the cold air definitely moves further to the south into Texas. And if there were precip overlapping with such cold conditions across the panhandle, the mountain air would definitely allow for some snow to occur, and we have seen that before in October. It's not something completely, that hasn't happened. I think yesterday a viewer left a comment talking about how in Texas in the last several years there's been I think 3 out of the last 4 years they have seen snow in the panhandle in October. So it's a bit unusual to see it 3 out of the 4 years, but it's not that unusual to see it by itself in October. Let's take a look quickly at the Canadian. I like to look at this model just to show you what it's talking about and if it's agreeing. Again, the Canadian usually is the most inaccurate, so if it agrees with the other models, it's actually a pretty good sign of confidence, and really in this case that's the case. You can see we push warm air to the north at around this late week time frame. The cold air then overrides this next week. And again, it depends on where you live. If you live across the south, then yes, you'll be warm, followed by cold. If you live across the northwest, it will be cold, followed by cold. If you live across the Midwest, it will be warm, cold, cold, warm, warm. You get the point. It could be kind of a back and forth transition period. But generally, the cold air does override at one point. Depending, again, on the storm systems, if a stronger one does appear, it could push in a lot of warm air briefly. But definitely the Canadian centers it more across the southwest rather than the Midwest. But we'll have to see. Again, each model is different. And I will be bringing you guys an update about the snowfall potential in the evening hours. Going back to the European, I just want to quickly see for myself, because this model run is just loading in. It shows a big storm on Thursday and Friday, and apparently it is showing another pretty decent system around Monday time frame. So definitely interesting, and we'll have to keep this monitored. But as of now, that is all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.